Hello friends, I am here in my leopard print nightgown to talk about steamy things. YouTube has become very censorious about words related to spice and steam, so I'm going to try to be a bit more censorious myself than normal, but hopefully you'll be able to figure out what I'm talking about, even though I'm going to bleep out the most exciting and naughtiest words. When people ask me about writing and ask me about the things I find difficult, I think people are quite often surprised when I say that initially I found writing about really hard. Given that I've been performing in ways for 23 years on camera, I've been naked on camera for all of that time, I think maybe people would assume, quite understandably, that I would find writing about my life pretty easy. And actually I found it extremely exposing. So in my first book, Playing to Lose, I initially just decided I wasn't going to write about at all. I wasn't going to describe arousal or acts or even write in detail about BDSM acts. And then I realised that was cowardly. I normally every year I give myself a one-word resolution for the year, and the year that I was writing a lot of the chapters that became Playing to Lose, my one-word resolution was courage. And so that year I forced myself to write stuff that I felt was embarrassingly and frighteningly exposing, and I think it definitely made for a better book. But when I came to start writing Dirty, my second book, which at the time of filming this, pre-orders are open and I am crowdfunding through pre-orders, and we're 65% of the way there, and I'm going to release this video once we've reached the next threshold. I knew that I wanted to write a much more frank book than my first book. Not that the whole book is by any means about but when I did talk about my life and the things I was doing, I wanted to be really frank, really honest, and not to hide behind kind of euphemisms or cliches even, because you expose less of yourself if you resort to ways in which people have written about and BDSM before. And so I wanted to be as bold as I could be, as original as I could be, but above all as truthful as I could be. And it's excruciating. The first thing I have to do when I've written anything is I have to share it with the person who was part of that scene with me. So sometimes it will be another producer or rigger or performer, and sometimes when it's in my personal life it will be actual partner. And that is a really daunting thing to do. I'm always frightened, even though I've now been doing this a lot in the last couple of years. I'm always scared they'll say, no, that's not how it was. You're exaggerating, or you're delusional, or it was nowhere near as good as you seem to think it was, or actually, no, you were rubbish. It forces you to confront a lot of insecurities, both as a writer and as a participant in activities. So it has been scary, it remains scary, but I've now got quite a lot of practice at doing it, and the more I do it, the less scary it gets. And there is a great pleasure to firstly sharing the stuff that you write as a erotic writer with the people you write about. That's lovely, because if they like it, it feels like you've maybe provided them with the sort of analysis that you don't generally give a partner. You might say you've had a wonderful time, but you probably wouldn't normally itemise exactly why. And so that does feel like potentially quite a valuable thing to give to people, and it's certainly something, when people write for me in that way, I really appreciate it. But it also feels like quite an exciting and valuable thing to potentially share with you, if you are a person who enjoys reading erotica that's very much grounded in reality. I mean, I hope it works as an erotic fantasy. If you read it as though it were fiction, I hope it would still be satisfying, but the fact is that it's real. And so I sort of hope that maybe for people who haven't done much BDSM in their real lives yet, that perhaps some of what I've written about will be useful to inspire some fantasies or give you some ideas of things you might want to try. And what I hope most of all is that for dominants, especially male dominants, to read from the perspective of a female submissive who just loves doing this stuff, I hope it will give them some confidence that if you find the right partner, you're not just imposing your weird sexual tastes on them, you are providing them with the exact sexual experiences that they long for, and in my case had longed for years and years and decades. So what I thought would be nice to do is, if you don't mind spoilers, I'm just going to read the first erotic chapter in my forthcoming book. So it's very early on in the story. It's in January, and it's just a short account of a really beautiful encounter, my first personal BDSM experience of the year that I wrote about. So here we go. At 9:15 p.m, I stop at a service station to brush my teeth, change my panties for fancier ones, and to put on stockings. I normally arrive before him, and can therefore stage manage my appearance more thoroughly than this. For once, he's waiting for me, and I want him to think I'm the sort of woman whose breath smells naturally of mint, whose underwear is lacy and perfumed, and whose legs are permanently encased in fine hosiery that's not travelled sweatily up the M1. I can do nothing about the duct tape marks on my face, the lower half of which is now bright red, like weird scalded stubble, and I know from experience that the skin will take several days to recover. I shall try to distract him from my red beard by making him pay a great deal of attention to my bottom. An hour later, I have succeeded in this. I am face down across a big white bed. He's piled pillows under my hips, making my arse the highest part of me. I'm no longer wearing panties or even stockings. Our route between the front door several minutes ago and here now has been a confusion of discarded clothes, hasty instructions, greedy hands and searching mouths. But momentarily his hands are not on me, and I have time to absorb the fact that he's removing his leather belt and to understand what this means before the first burning stroke lands diagonally across my buttocks. The first few strokes occupy all of me as I adjust to a pain that never seems familiar enough to process. In the 6 weeks since he last beat me, the memory of it has become velvet-edged, sepia-toned. My recollection of his dominance has remained, the reassuring knowledge that he'd been in charge, but the strokes themselves are merely cashmere soft echoes, not much different from the memory of a kiss. I'd remembered only the pleasure. But as his belt lands in real time across my arse, this pain is diamond-cornered, screaming through me, filling me and silencing my mind. Consequently, my face is buried in the counterpane. I see nothing, hear nothing, observe nothing. This cannot last. My desire for him can only be briefly drowned out by how much this hurts, and absorbing the whipping directs my attention back irresistibly to its source, him. I like pain, but the person who delivers it is more important than the specifics of the sensation. I turn my head. And there he is, transformed into the other. He looks exactly the same as the civilised, stylish man who greeted me at the door only a little while earlier, but he's a stranger. Not angry or hateful. There's just nothing soft left in him. Not for a moment do I imagine that he's trying to do something different with his face. I don't think he's acting. It feels rather like the opposite, as though the act of whipping me is stripping away any aspects of him that are extraneous to this, the journey we're on together. Stay down. If you can talk like an adult, you can take a beating like one. The other speaks no louder than the friend who welcomed me with a smile minutes ago, but his tone holds the absolute certainty of being obeyed. He doesn't seem excited. The opposite. This is the calmest version of him that I ever meet. He seems to move in slow motion, deliberate and leisurely, even now in the midst of what seems like a storm of belt whipping. I cannot look away. This stranger fascinates and frightens me, however many times I encounter him. He's never done anything I haven't been glad of afterwards. It's just that I can't predict what it might be, and I'm rarely fully prepared to process it. This other might taunt me for crying, or kiss my forehead gently and immediately afterwards slap my face hard. He might make me kiss the belt he's been whipping me with, or might suddenly change the rules for how I address him, leaving me disorientated, suspicious that anything I say might invite more punishment. The other sometimes speaks to me with a coldness that borders upon contempt. My is not being sucked, he might announce dispassionately, as I realise that I'm on the floor when a moment ago I'd been bending over a piece of furniture before receiving a cane stroke hard enough to make my legs buckle, and the sound of his voice pulls me upright, even as my body fails to accurately identify which way actually is up, because not doing what he tells me would simply feel treacherous. "Did you think I wouldn't hurt you?" he asks, as though judging me hopelessly naive. "Don't try to make me feel sorry for you," he might sneer, and the first time I met this other him, I momentarily hated him for taking me so near to my limit, for demanding the impossible and then telling me, "Don't say you can't," when I didn't think that I could. "I don't want to hear you say no," he told me once in a voice like steel. I believe him. This man does not seem to be my friend. His mouth is a certain straight line, his standards are higher than I can meet, and my gasp exclamations of "God, it hurts," or my pleas for him to slow down do not appear to move him. But just as the process of whipping me has changed him, absorbing the beating is altering me. The last few strokes of his belt hurt no less than the first, but my body is beginning to respond like a collaborator rather than an adversary, giving up its fight to defend itself from the onslaught. It's not like anesthesia. This feeling is more like sedation. It hurts, but I'm distanced from the pain, and as this sensation increases, I discover that I no longer need to flinch with each successive stroke. My body is quieting in tandem with my mind, and by the time he picks up the cane, I'm actively craving more. The first caning of my year, and I'm drifting out into subspace before it even begins. I hope you enjoyed that. Let me know. Did you find that sexy? I hope so. I hope so. Clearly, some people won't. My lawyer, for example, didn't seem to find it sexy at all and in fact was quite disapproving. But I hope that the audience who chooses to listen to my videos and read my work will have a more positive reaction than that. Let me know. Thanks as always for watching. Please pre-order my memoir. There are many options for things you can choose, including extra rewards. I'll be back with more. It's goodbye from me. Bye-bye now. Bye-bye. Bye-bye now. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.